The American weekend officially begins on Friday evening, but already by Friday morning there are signs that the weekend is just around the corner. You see fewer cars on the highways, and the buses and subways are less crowded with people too. This is because some people take a day off on Friday to have a 3-day weekend. Things are different at work. People don't wear the same clothes as they wear on weekdays. They dress themselves more casually. For instance, managers in the office may put on casual sports clothes instead of coats and ties. Some people put on blue jeans. This trend toward easy Fridays is popular with employees who normally wear uniforms to work. In Los Angeles, for example, bus drivers are usually dressed in military-style jackets, hats, and trousers. Recently, however, they have received permission to wear polo shirts and baseball caps on Fridays. Transportation officials believe that this new Friday dress code is good for the drivers' morale, and they are also sure that the passengers won't mind, just as long as the buses run on time. Around the corner, be crowded with take a day off at work, dress oneself, for instance, put on instead of. Be popular with be dressed and on time, on, by, that same as, long as. In many American families, it is common for both parents to have full-time jobs, even when they have little children. But if both mom and dad are gone all day, who on earth takes care of the kids? And quite a few homes, the nanny does. In quite a few homes, the nanny does. Quite a few. There were quite a few people in the stadium. Quite a few. Quite a few. Not a little. Not a little. Quite a few. Not a few. Quite a few. As a long time ago, only rich people could afford to have a nanny. Nannies were usually middle-aged and married women who were strict with the children. They instead insisted on their children's behaving themselves at all times. These days, however, many middle-class families have college students to work as nannies. Usually, these people who take care of children are young women. But some young men do this type of work too. Often nannies live with the family, and the children grow up to love them very much. These live-in jobs appeal to college students because they don't have to spend money on rent or food. Sometimes foreign students take jobs as nannies, hoping such work will help them improve their English skills. There is one problem, though, because they spend so much time playing and talking with little children. Most of the English they learn is baby talk. Common, full-time, middle-aged, not middle class, and foreign improved skill have gone away. On earth, who on earth are you? Who on earth are you? Take care of. She takes care of her mother. Quite a few. There were quite a few people in the stadium. I cannot afford to buy a new car. Be strict with. The teacher is strict with students. Insist, insist on. He insisted on going there. He insisted on going there. Behave oneself. When you are at school, you must behave yourself. At all times, he is kind to us. At all times. These days, those days. My father gets up early these days. Gets up early. Appeal to. His speech appealed to the audience. Spend A on a B. He spent all the money on books. He spent so much time studying English. It is easy for him to read this book. Both you and she have to attend the meeting. Graph 2. He grew up to be a great actor. He grew up to. In many American families, it is common for both parents to have full-time jobs even when they have little children. But if both mom and dad are gone all day, who on earth takes care of the kids? In quite a few homes, the nanny does. Long time ago, only rich people could afford to have a nanny. Nannies were usually middle-aged unmarried women who were strict with the children. They insisted on their children's behaving themselves at all times. These days, however, many middle-class families have encouraged students to work as nannies. Usually these people who take care of children are young women, but some young men do this type of work too. Often nannies live with the family and the children grew up to love them very much. These live-in jobs appeal to college students because they don't have to spend money on rent or food. Sometimes foreign students take jobs as nannies, hoping such work will help them improve their English skills. There is one problem, though, because they spend too much time playing and talking with little children. Most of the English they learn is baby talk. After having lived for over 20 years in the same district, Albert was forced to move to a new place. His landlord was taken back to where he was living because he couldn't afford to buy any more chocolate. It all began a year ago. As Albert returned home one evening, he found a large dog in front of his gate. He was fond of animals, and as he happened to have a small piece of chocolate in his pocket, he gave it to the dog. The next day, the dog was there again. It held up its paw and received another piece of chocolate as a reward. Albert called his new friend Bingo. He failed to discover the dog's real name or who his owner was. However, Bingo never failed to appear regularly every afternoon, and it was very clear that he preferred chocolate to buns. Soon the dog was not satisfied with small pieces of chocolate and demanded a large bowl every day. If at any time Albert neglected his duty, Bingo got very angry and didn't let him open the gate. He was now at the mercy of Bingo and had to bribe him to get into his own house. As he had to spend such a large part of his weekly wages to supply Bingo with chocolate, he moved somewhere else. be forced to, move to, take a back, be fond of, hold up, fold up, prefer, be satisfied with, at any time, at, you can call me at any time, at mercy or at mercy, our boat was at the mercy of the storm. Get into, why don't you get into the car? Supply A with B. The river supplies our village with water. I'm ashamed of having been idle. I happened to meet him at the station. Failed to. I failed to help him with his homework. Never failed to. It is important that you listen to other people. Please let me drive your car. Today, in many parts of the world, it is customary for people to shake hands on meeting as a gesture of goodwill. Originally, however, the practice of shaking hands had a more practical purpose. Shaking hands originated in medieval times. In those days, when a man came across a stranger, he would often reach for his weapon out of fear in spite of himself with his right hand, in case he had to use the weapon to defend himself. Sometimes the two men had been circling around each other with weapons in their hand until they laid aside the weapons. Then the two persons extended their right hand to show they had no weapons. It is not known when and why the handshake changed from a simple clasping of hands to include a shaking movement. This shaking movement of a clasped hand probably started as early as the 16th century. Medieval times. Customer gesture were originally practiced practical purpose. Medieval. Stranger. Weapon, defend, circle, extend, include, move. Medieval. Medieval. Tuesday. We shook hands with each other. Originate in. Date from. This tradition originates in the Heian era. I came across the black cat in the street. Reach for. The little boy reached for the cookie jar. Out of fear, out of curiosity, they got into panic out of fear. In spite of oneself, despite for it all. That comic made her laugh in spite of herself. Each other, each other. You loved each other. Lay aside, lay aside. The policeman ordered the man to lay aside his weapon. On seeing me, he ran away. There is no hope of his recovering from his illness. There is no hope that he will recover from his illness. I would often sit reading in this park. I would often sit reading in this park. In case, take an umbrella with you in case it rains. He walked with his hands in his pockets. It is not known who he is. He visits the museum as often as 4 times a week. Today, in many parts of the world, it is customary for people to shake hands on meeting as a gesture of goodwill. Originally, however, the practice of shaking hands had a more practical purpose. Shaking hands originated in medieval times. In those days, when a man came across a stranger, he would often reach for his weapon out of fear in spite of himself. With his right hand, in case he had to use the weapon to defend himself. Sometimes the two men had been circling around each other, with weapons in their hands, until they laid aside the weapons. They laid aside the weapon. Then the two persons extended the right hand to show they had no weapons. It is not known when and why the handshake changed from a simple clasping of hands to include a shaking movement. When and why the handshake changed from a simple clasping of hands to include a shaking movement. Simple grasping of hands to include a shaking movement. The shaking movement of the clasped hands probably started as early as the 16th century. Clasp